What's up, everybody? Thralls here once again. I'm Necrotic.
I'm Jammin John.
And we have yet another album review for you. So one that was definitely on our radar because we've gone over the last two on here.
Yep.
And, well, this band definitely stems from two other bands that we fucking love. Was the newest offering from Memoriam, Rise to Power. This also comes out on the 3rd of February on Reaper Entertainment. This band was founded in 2015 in Birmingham, England, featuring ex-members of Bolt Thrower, namely Carl Willits on vocals, and of course an ex-member of Benediction as well, Frank Healy on bass. This is their 5th album overall. We were pretty big fans of their last album to the end. You know, this is very much in the vein of Bolt Thrower because, I mean, you have Carl in there with his vocals and the amount of just awesome fucking riffs, war themes, groove. It kind of checks off every fucking box you want for a Bolt Thrower release, except it just doesn't have the Bolt Thrower logo on it. Over the last couple of albums, notice this band has been like getting tighter, progressing a little bit more, you know, kind of changing their sound a bit, but still retaining everything that we love about the bands that's definitely kind of comprise them.
Yeah, kind of creating their own sound, so to speak. Pretty much when you start a new band, I mean, obviously, if you have members from other bands, it's going to sound a little bit reminiscent of those other bands, which is not a bad thing.
No.
But it sounds like more and more as time progresses here for Memoriam, they're finding their own way, too.
And I think a lot of it has to do with the nature of this band's formation. This was formed as a memoriam to their buddy, Martin Kitty Kearns, who unfortunately died not too long after the last Bolt Thrower album, and that was the main reason that Bolt Thrower decided not to continue on. But this was essentially his tribute. This was their way of getting over the death and, you know, moving on in a healthy, constructive manner. And it started off very much, you know, just in the vein of what they did, very much in the spirit. All the albums were dedicated to him. And I think they said with their 3rd album that that was essentially, you know, burying that whole theme. There was a trilogy. And then this last one to the end was the start of a new set. And I feel like this new era of Memoriam is bigger, like just more massive. There's more things to it than just what we expect. And honestly, if this came out sounding just like a Bolt Thrower album or, you know, one of the fucking awesome Benediction albums, I probably still wouldn't have any problem with it at all. But this is notably just a bigger album, and there's a lot of different elements at play besides what you come to expect from them.
Things that were notably different in here, first of all, a lot more melodic. Lots of melodies, lots of harmonies, and lots of doomy melodies and harmonies. Most notably, songs like Total War. Dark, doomy, melodic, harmonized, HM2 tremolos. Very different.
Yeah. I mean, it still retains, like, you know, what you come to expect from Bolt Thrower. Like, if you like Bolt Thrower, you're still gonna like this. You know, that double time, nasty, sort of mow the fuck over you in a tank groove, the just pummeling fucking riffs, but there's a lot more to the melody. Like, again, harmonies. Not so much like solos and leads, like they are kind of pockmarked all over here, but rather just these epic but somehow sullen melodies, like, again, like sort of reflecting on the horrors of war, because that is, I think, a lot of the lyrical themes, once again, because it's Carl Willits, this is what he loves talking about.
But triumphant too, like in Annihilation's Dawn, where it again starts out epic and doomy, but then there's like a rise in the whole atmosphere. Just everything's like, oh, huge.
Yeah, it has this kind of like epic old school heavy metal vibe, but of course played through this old school death metal filter. Like, it still feels powerful. It still feels just sort of muscular and shit, but like, again, like triumphant. I like how that song starts with the very like kind of heavy metal sort of vibe. Like, there's this odd beat with a fill in it, and I think the drum work in here is really good. Like, it's very groove laden, meat and potatoes, but it's cleverly accented, and I just feel like all this kind of came together really well. But yeah, this sort of heavy metal intro into, of course, the stomping double time fucking chugs,
galloping chugs.
Like, it's downright empowering, but at the same time you have a song like I Am the Enemy, which brings on the fucking doom. Like, this is one of the gloomiest songs on the album, almost more akin to like Paradise Lost than it is Bolt Thrower. These sullen, dreary melodies, occasionally sort of punctuated by like more intense spots, but the whole vibe of that song is just dark and dank and in the mud, like the muddy fucking trenches of World War I still gotta make war references on this because this is Memoriam.
But then it gets into songs like All Is Lost.
Ugh.
with this really kind of like sweet off-time groove that ends up not only in the intro but carried out throughout the song. And this song is notably more aggressive than usual, a little bit more upbeat. It's not just so focused on normal, like, say, bolt thrower sound. Get a lot of At the Gates.
I got
a lot of this.
Big At the Gates vibes, especially on Total War, because it shifts to this fast section that, I mean, honestly, Bolt Thrower has been known for playing fast, and honestly, neither has Memoriam. Like, fast is sort of like, again, like sort of double time stomp, kind of the same thing that's like the backbone of albums like For Victory. But this is more like Terminal Spirit Disease and Slaughter of the Soul. Like, you have this very At the Gatesy riff. It's faster, it's a little bit darker sounding, and it shifts over to that double time with that same riff, and this tremolo just sounds fucking great. Like, it's this, again, dark, dank, but like very powerful melody. And all of this that we're talking about, these different elements, it's so ingrained in their sound that's already established. I think that is a testament to the songwriting here. Like, this album flows remarkably well. 8 tracks, little bit over 44 minutes. It doesn't really lag at any point, and there's enough cool peaks and valleys because it's paced well. Like, you don't have a lot of songs that are back-to-back the same thing. A lot of these songs stand out on their own for individual stuff, like really good song building in terms of like welling up the emotion, like This Pain, the closer. Great opening.
One of my favorite songs, actually. This really cool, clean, ambient kind of vibe. You get some hand drums in there off in the distance, and then it builds up to some really fucking sick grooves.
Oh man, I mean, this album grooves. It grooves fucking hard.
The whole thing does. There was never really a time where I stopped moving along because it's just riff after riff after riff after riff after riff.
And seamless transitions. Like, that's one of the things I love about this. They're bringing in new elements that, are a little bit outside of most of their sound, but they're doing it really well. Like, there's a really cool, like, almost Iron Maiden-y sort of breakdown in This Pain, and it's just sort of clever, like, isolated chugs, cool harmony, and it has this more triumphant vibe. But I like how that switches gears to the more bleak ending. It kind of bookends the whole somber, dreary mood, and that is, again, like, another thing I like about this album is the songs flow really well, much like the albums do. Like, there is, like, deliberate pacing on here. You have time for riffs to fucking settle in. Like, you get a chance to, like, hear them occasionally isolated, build up, you get the groove in there. Fucking Carl shouts about fucking tanks and some shit, and it's fucking awesome. And then they'll add a melody on top, or they'll do a transition, but the transition isn't, like, so knee-jerk or far removed from the original melody that's set. Like, that makes this album flow really well.
Yep. And fret not, if you're looking for some straight bolt thrower worship, don't let us, convince you that this album is totally different than that. Because the title track, Rise to Power, there's what you know.
Oh.
There's bolt thrower through and through. That's such a beautiful track. Epic build-ups. While it's still that straight bolt thrower worship, they still creep in these epic doomy melodies, which are all over this album.
Honestly, that song has one of the heaviest moments in the entire album. The breakdown at the end of Rise to Power, powerful as hell. And I like that sort of like weird kind of off-time hitch in it too. And they do that on other sections in here, like you brought up on All Is Lost. On Annihilation's Dawn, there's this really interesting hitch in the riff, like it's a little bit off-time, like it's a solo chug and then boom right back to it. But this breakdown at the end of Rise to Power is monstrous. And this whole song's awesome. It opens up straight up bolt thrower, gets into some death doomy territory with this really cool, just descending, ugly riff, and then boom, you're into this just powerful breakdown. It's powerful no matter where they fucking go, and it's just killer. And I gotta say, the production here is fucking fantastic.
Yeah, nothing overpowers anything. The guitars are crisp and crunchy with some beef in the chugs. The drums sit nicely in the mix. Again, not too loud. Everything is just where it's supposed to be. Like, it has, in my opinion, one of the more perfect sounding productions I've heard at least all year. Granted, we're not very far in the year.
Yeah.
But this is how I think a record like this should be presented.
Yeah, and it sounds big. Like, it doesn't sound too compressed. Like, everything sounds full. And I think Carl's vocals sit really nicely. Like, they're a bit out in front, but it's not like, oh, they're just too much, you're drowning out anything. Like, no, nothing's drowned out. You're going to hear everything on this album. And it has, like, kind of a nice organic sound. And, well, I mean, the thing that I look for this is probably what it'll sound like live. And honestly, I think on this album, a thing that plays maybe a bigger role than maybe it has on other releases is atmosphere. Like, everything being set up in terms of that deliberate pace, there's a lot more, like, atmosphere added. Like, you know, the vocals maybe having slightly more reverb in a section, more epic layers of harmonies and such. Like, it really lets the mood sit in really well. I think the song Conflict is within really pretty much showcases that, especially with the giant dynamic sweeps in that song. Going from Death Doom to more intense material, like there's some great stomping rhythms, again, more reminiscent of Bolt Thrower and even Benediction too. And the bleak ending to it where they squeeze in some acoustic melodies on top of the guitars. Again, they do like everything right to just sort of accentuate the backbone. Like, the backbone of this is riffs, groove, and just like a good solid fucking just chuggy pace to it. But there's more on top of that. This doesn't solely rely on just the power of that main riff. They know how to accent it well without losing that main riff. The thing that drew you in initially, they know how to fucking add to it.
I don't have many gripes at all, which is a rare find in today's day and age. The one thing I might latch on to is in the song All Is Lost. First of all, it's an awesome song.
It is.
I really loved it. Catchy, hooky, aggressive, those Middle Eastern vibes towards the end of it. The one problem I had was it's a little repetitive. The main riff of this song carries on throughout the entire song, and it never really gets abandoned. And while it is built on in spots, like, it's really the only riff that holds on to this song. That's really my only gripe.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of with you. Like, that's the weaker one, I think, on here in terms of, like, being like less dynamic and less inventive, but it also brings like a more primal edge. Like, yeah, it lays on this riff, and it's a fucking sick riff. Honestly, it's one of the catchiest ones on the album, amongst all the other catchy riffs. But it does lay on it too long, and I think the lyrics on that one get a little too repetitive. Like, you're going to hear that song title repeated a lot.
Yes.
But at the same time, like, you're kind of just grooving and chugging along, so it's really not much of a knock. It's just, you know, compared to other songs in here with, like, more elaborate themes in terms of the song construction and even the lyrical quality, because, I mean, you know, Carl is, you know, a pretty fucking smart guy. I know he has, like, degrees in cultural studies and such. Like, he pays attention to all these themes and everything. And this one, it just kind of felt like, it's like, no, we just need to make this one beefy and aggressive, and they definitely did, but it's kind of missing on some other aspects. But overall, fuck, dude, Memoriam just keeps getting better. I really dug the last one. I thought that was an improvement over the one before that, and I think this one is honestly an improvement over the last one. So I'm going to go ahead and give this 4.5 stars. Once again, this band being old fucking pros, man, they really just still know how to do this. And honestly, the thing that I like about this one possibly more than the last one is the last one definitely felt more, you know, like straightforward Bolt Thrower worship. This feels like it's becoming its own entity, like they have their own sound. And yeah, they're pulling from different camps and sort of adding it and making their own sort of thing here. But at the same time, it still hasn't abandoned the reason why I fucking love this band and love Bolt Thrower and Benediction. Like, it still has that old school sound. Two of the best UK death metal bands, in my opinion, ever, pretty much coming together, kind of creating their own thing. And I think this is where it's really starting to come together. This has some of their best songwriting. It's dynamic as hell. It's catchy. It's both brutal and melodic. It doesn't, you know, pretty much take one side too much. It's a great fucking balance. If you love groove, riffs, if you love Bolt Thrower and Benediction and just groovy, awesome death metal, you will probably dig this. So yeah, definitely check this thing out.
It's also a 4.5 for me, and I was laboring between 4 and 4.5. But I mean, really, what gets me the extra half star is it was fun.
Yeah.
I had tons of fun listening to this. Never stopped bobbing my head. It's riffs for days, and like, you know, we've been talking about this whole time. It is becoming its own monster, so to speak. Of course, what you love about, you know, Benediction and Bolt Thrower is all in there. The songs just seem to stand apart from one another as their own separate breathing entities. Without saying too many words, Nick already said most of what I wanted to say, so I'm not going to really expound on that. I'm just going to say it's a damn good record, packed full of awesome riffs and a lot more dynamic and just creativity than what I've seen come out of this band in the past. And like, it's cool to see this band progress and become its own and kind of leave behind the identities that it had in the past.
Not completely, though.
Not completely.
You'll still hear it.
They're still there. You're definitely 100% going to hear them. You're just going to hear different things, too.
Yeah.
Something new, something fresh and exciting. Definitely check it out.
Yeah.
100%.
Honestly, it's pretty cool that we've actually reviewed 3 of this band's albums, and over the course, we've definitely heard this clear evolution. Like,
yeah,
it's never really been terrible. Like, I think, like, their early 2 albums, I think, are still good, but, you know, these last 3 have been their strongest, and, again, it keeps ramping up. Yeah, Memoriam, way to fucking go. This was awesome. So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there's a link down below to thrallsmetal.com. That is our store, but also our Patreon is there. So if you'd like to actually get a shirt or help us out on Patreon, that is the place to do it.
Also, last but not least, Denver Death Fest. We are moving into what I believe will be now the 4th announcement, so we will announce bands 15 through 20 out of 30. There are some surprises coming. I just found out yesterday as to 2 more bands that are going to be added to the bill, which are pretty fucking cool. Definitely go to denverdeathfest.com. Snag some tickets, man. They're cheap as fuck. For 30 bands, $60. Are you kidding me? Denver, Colorado, April 20th through the 22nd, 2023. Thralls of Metal and Swinging News Productions, along with our other lovely sponsors, will be hosting the 1st annual Denver Death Fest. So come out, join us, have a beverage, have a smoke, because you're in the land of Colorado, where they allow wonderful smoking.
Oh boy, those conversations are going to be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time. Come out and join us 100%.
And of course, thank you all so much for liking, subscribing, following. I know the thank you part of the video, but I fucking mean it every time. It blows me away just to see this channel continuously grow. And hearing back from fans saying they're finding new music all the time, which honestly is still my favorite comment ever.
Yeah,
dude, I found this killer band from you guys. Like, awesome.
Yeah, we were walking around the antique mall today, and we got a message from a gentleman in Scotland who said he was happy to find some new bands courtesy of our end of year list last year. That's awesome. That's why I think we do this more so than to just...
Yep.
He and I were going to talk about all these bands anyway, but it's cool that you guys are finding things out about music. It's helping keep everything alive and rolling, so thank you for that, too.
Yeah. So, once again, thank you all so much for literally every fucking thing, and we will catch you later.